Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
From the top rope, kid and kill the roar so loud. Black and gold waving, we're a fearless crowd. Under them lights, the fight burns bright. Greatest team assembled, ready for the fight. We stand tall, we stand true. Every game, every play, got the Hawkeye view. Legends rise, and we all knew that the black and gold's coming straight for you. From a Hawkeye view, see the whole state rise. With a heart so strong and fire in our eyes. On the field, on the court, in the stands, we shine. The best in the game, and the state is mine. Cover Hawkeyes, marking, watch 'em break that glass. Dropping dimes, hitting threes, never second guess. Full court hustle, hear the sneaker side. With the fight in our veins, we wear that pride. We stand tall, we stand true. Every game, every play, got the Hawkeye view. Legends rise, and we all knew that the black and gold's coming straight for you. From a Hawkeye view, see the whole state rise.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Andrew Barber here with Sean Roberts, filling in for Drew Shipley. Thanks for doing this so last minute, Sean. I appreciate you very much.
No problem, my man. No problem. Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. So I didn't get to listen to the show this morning. I know you made your Arch Madness predictions. What'd you roll with for the D2 Dogs?
So I went with Drake beating you and I in the championship game on Sunday. So I have Drake winning it all, winning the tournament. Yeah,
That would be an electric factory down there in St. Louis if that were the outcome, for sure.
it really would be. It really would be. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right. So
I hope you are too. I love watching this Drake team. Personally, as an Iowa fan, but just as a basketball fan, it's been awesome to watch. So, wanted to kind of just pick your brain a little bit on the future of Iowa men's basketball. I think we talked about this a little bit when you came on earlier this year, actually. Now that we're kind of at the end of the season, what do you think is going to happen with the future of Fran McCaffrey? I guess, what camp are you in based on what you've heard, what you've read about Fran McCaffrey's future at Iowa?
I mean, he came out the other day in his press conference and he essentially was like, I'm not going anywhere. I plan on coming back. And what else is he going to say? He's not going to come out and be like, hey, by the way, I'm done. And good luck the rest of the season. He's not going to do that. That's not his style. And I mean, you don't want to do that right before senior night either, where now you've taken the spotlight away from the guys that have earned it, guys like Peyton Sanford. I don't know. Everything I'm hearing from multiple people is that he will be done at the end of the season. Now, is that groundbreaking news? No, because multiple people have already come out and kind of said that. Now we're kind of just waiting for it to officially happen. I mean, either way, I'm not shocked if he comes back. But I would also be shocked if he's the head coach next season. I just think the way that everything's kind of gone here for him this year, especially, and over the last couple of years, apathy set in. I talked to Beth Getz a couple of weeks ago. She notices the attendance and kind of the pulse of the fan base. So I don't think Beth is trying to ignore the fact of what's going on currently with the basketball program. So I would lean that it's probably done.
Yeah, I think it's just more a question of how is it done? Is there a buyout involved? Is there just a retirement with no buyout involved?
there's a buyout involved. I think it's like $4 million. I think something like that.
Mhm.
Now, I believe there's a clause in the contract. Lucas and I were talking about this on the show, I think yesterday when we were talking about Fran's comments. I think it's like 1.2 mil a year they could end up doing. And I would completely understand if Fran McCaffrey's like, I'm going to hold you guys to every single penny, for this buyout, because why not, right? Like, who wouldn't? You would probably do it. I would do it, right? If you're going to lose your job and you have the chance to make all your money, you're going to do that. So, there's a lot of factors with this whole thing. You're going to have Fran's buyout. You're going to have to go, depending on who you go after, you're going to probably have a buyout that you're going to have to pay there, along with the fact that you're going to probably have, revenue sharing all come into effect. There's just a lot of things that you're going to have to try and navigate now, and a new contract for that head coach that you bring in too. So like, there's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm very curious about, like you talked about revenue sharing, how committed Iowa's going to be, what kind of amount are they going to put towards the men's basketball program with the revenue sharing that's coming. How much can they raise with the new coach? I think let's kind of just talk about the new coach possibilities, because I think there's two guys. Both of them have Drake ties. Both of them you've gotten to see plenty of up close and personal with your job being the MC at Drake. DeVries or McCollum, I have flip-flopped back and forth with, like, time and time again with what would be a better option for Iowa if they were to make a change. Where do you stand on the DeVries McCollum thing? Or is it hard for you because you're an employee of Drake? You got to roll with McCollum.
It's difficult for me, but it's part of my job. I mean, I have to be able to talk about this stuff, and it's hard for me also because I know both of them quite well. I think Darren's in an interesting situation just for the fact of he just took the West Virginia job last year. He signed a 5-year deal. I don't know necessarily what his buyout would be, but I'm sure it's not cheap. So you have Darren, who now is at year 1 at West Virginia. He's had an okay year at West Virginia. Tucker had some injuries, but he's a winner. He's a winner. He knows how to win. Obviously, Iowa's home. Then you go to the Ben McCollum aspect of things. Now, Ben McCollum is on everyone's. The unfortunate thing for me as a Drake guy is, when you have success at Drake, you're everyone's first pick, right? And whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, doesn't matter. If you are good at Drake and you win, and Darren staying as long as he did was incredible in itself. But Ben McCollum's going to be on everyone's top list. It's not just going to be Iowa that's probably calling. It's going to be Indiana. It's going to be every big coaching job that opens up around the country is probably making a phone call. Now, who's to say if he ends up going anywhere? I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. I learned my lesson last year of not getting wrapped up in so much of this stuff and trying to just take everything, game by game and enjoying the moments and stuff. But towards the end of last season with March Madness and being there was just a sense that it was the end of an era. Like, you could just, it was in the air. I don't know. It was a weird feeling. It's a feeling I'll never forget feeling in Omaha, and even really kind of in St. Louis a little bit, because the rumors were already starting to fly. I don't know how that is down in St. Louis right now with Coach Ben McCollum and this team. But he's going to be on everyone's. It's not just going to be Iowa calling. I can promise you that. So
Right.
you better be able to pony up some cash.
Yeah, I think either way, both those guys have Iowa ties, but yeah, like you said, we're gonna have to pony up some cash. And kind of the narrative that I've heard is that, if we do make a change, there's a lot of people waiting to kind of flood money into the Iowa men's basketball program. I don't know how true that is, but we're probably gonna find out. I think
if that's true, then for the people that are holding on to that money, like, shame on you. Personally, my personal opinion, and that's just for the fact of, if you want to support the program, support the program,
right.
right? If you're going to, because the NIL situation for the men's basketball program, from everything that I've been told and understand, isn't the greatest. So if you're holding back funds, then I don't know. If I had money and I'm a diehard Iowa basketball fan and I had a chance to have an impact financially on what this team looks like, then I don't care what's happening. I'm going to do that. Now, I don't have those types of funds, so I'm not saying, I'm not telling people to spend their money, but if they have the money and they're willing to spend it and they're only going to spend it now if there's a new head coach involved, I don't know. That bothers me a little bit, but everyone, free to do whatever you want.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You should support the team regardless of who the coach is. To me, it's a little bit of with DeVries McCollum. What has me going back and forth is like DeVries has the obvious experience at the D1 level, the recruiting. I think there's a little bit more of like a guaranteed like floor with Darian DeVries, or at least you could perceive it that way. But then I hear things like Grant McCasland and Dusty May go to Ben McCollum for advice. And then I see Drake play basketball and listen to Ben McCollum speak. And then I just understand this guy is just a basketball guy through and through. He's just eats, sleeps, breathes it. And I have no doubt that he could build a winner basically anywhere that he's at.
Yeah, I think when you look at, they're both winners. They're both winners, and that's just who they are. Right. That's mentalities. These guys work their ass off, and they can coach their ass off as well, and they can recruit their ass off. And now seeing it both with both of them, Darren would be just fine at Iowa. I think he's a proven winner, not only at Drake, but goes this year to West Virginia. Here's the other thing when you talk about Darren DeVries. He wouldn't be coming alone, right? Like he'd be bringing Tucker DeVries with him, who's probably going to get a medical red shirt. He just had shoulder surgery, I think a month or so back. So he's out the rest of the year. He'll get a medical red shirt, and so he'll come back for his last season. And so if you can get a healthy Tucker DeVries and mix in with Darren, that's a great 1-2 combination. That could, I don't know necessarily how electric factory it would be, for Iowa fans, but it definitely would put a jolt in there, right? Like it would definitely put a jolt into the fan base to get behind it. Ben McCollum, man, I didn't know what, as a Drake guy, I didn't know what we were getting outside of reading that the dude just wins. Like he just wins. Like I think he's played or has won like 13 straight conference championships between Division II and now Drake. He's like, it's incredible, right? Like he just wins. Not the 4 national championships. So like you hear all that, and then when he comes to Drake, you're going, okay, well, that was Division II. What are you going to be able to do here? Not that the Valley's like some crazy big time conference, but it's a different level of skill. And would that be able to transfer to Division I? And not only has it transferred, they're 27-3. They're the 1 seed at Arch Madness. They're on the verge of getting an at-large bid. I do think that they should get one and will get one, as long as I think they win tomorrow against now Southern Illinois. I think if they can get past Friday, I think their chances of having that large are good, no matter how this ends up going. It's just hard to take away a 28-win team. Not saying that they can't be a part of the NCAA tournament. It's just amazing to me if that's the case, but I digress. But Ben McCollum, he's a winner, man. He's a full-on winner. He's going to win it. And you're right. Other coaches around the country go to him to help install what's going on with our offense. Getting advice from a guy that was the head coach at the Division II level, and they're flying him in going, fix this. Like, you know what I mean? So
right.
He'll be fine no matter what happens. Obviously, I hope he stays Drake, but he'll be fine no matter where he ends up going.
Yeah, and it's not just like any guys that are asking him; it's guys that are well respected, right? Dusty May was the hottest name on the coaching market last year. Grant McCasland was up there when it was his time to go to SEC. So, well respected guys are asking Ben McCollum for advice. So that means something to me as a basketball fan, but.
Good.
Yeah, I think there's no wrong pick between the two. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like either one's a good pick for Iowa if they end up going that way. Now, if they strike out with both of those, I think the situation gets a little bit more dire from there. I think there's good options, but I just don't know if there's any options that would strongly consider Iowa. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Real quick before you go, I know I want to be respectful of your time. Want to talk a little Iowa women's basketball with you here and maybe get your thoughts on the Iowa women's team. They've had quite the turnaround. They're playing Michigan State tonight. What's your prediction for tonight and the rest of the weekend for the Iowa women?
Oh, it's tough. I would like to see them win. I don't know much about. I know this Michigan State team's ranked number 24 in the country, and it's funny that both the men and the women are playing Michigan State this evening. One in the Big Ten tournament, and one's fighting to be in the Big Ten tournament. But I think from the women's front, I think that they have a good chance of winning. I don't know from a prediction standpoint. I mean, either way, they're going to be in the NCAA tournament, and it's just an incredible job by Jane Jensen. You look at this team the last couple months, there were some question marks early on, right? Like, one, I've said this on my show, you're never going to replace Caitlin Clark. That was never going to happen. But being able to get, Lucy Olson in, and from the people that I've talked to, she struggled those first couple months just adapting to everything, a lot of pressure on her, right? And I would say over the last month and a half or so, she's really caught on fire, as we've been able to see, which has helped lead this team down a better path. They had like 6 in a row at one point. This is a solid Iowa team. Now, how deep they can go in the NCAA tournament, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a run like we've seen over the last couple seasons with this Iowa women's team. But you know what? You get a couple wins, and for Jane Jensen, you're now, I don't know necessarily if you want to call it rebuilding the program, because they're not rebuilding. They're just they're keeping it where it is, and that's sustained excellence. But I think you get a win or two in the NCAA tournament. I think that's a very successful season. I know maybe Iowa fans are going to look at that and go, no, we got to get to the the Elite Eight or whatever the case is. But I think you have to also be a realist and see not only what that team lost after last season, but also just like there's new philosophy a little bit, right? There's new things happening. I think get a couple wins. That's a really good season for this Iowa women's team. And I think Iowa fans should be proud of that.
Yeah, that's kind of why the Big Ten tournament's big for them. I think tonight is especially big because they're floating around in that 7-9 territory. I think a win tonight probably puts them closer to 7 rather than 8 or 9 in terms of seeding for the NCAA tournament. And I think you do well to avoid one of the 4-1 seats in the second round matchup on their home floor. So that's why I think tonight's big. And then also Friday night, if they make it that far, they're playing Ohio State, a team that they just went down to the wire with. So when they played Michigan State earlier this year, they went down to the wire, 68-66 loss at Michigan State with 22 turnovers. So that's kind of been the theme. So you predicting a win tonight, Sean? Can we get an official prediction?
I'll predict a win tonight. Why not? Right? Let's keep them rolling, and it's always better for me to be able to talk about wins and losses the next day. So I'm all for a win for this Iowa women's team. I think it would be great also on the men's side, get a win on senior night. Because you get a win, you're essentially in the Big Ten tournament, right? And that's what we want, right? We want to see this team at least get a couple more games. So,
yeah. So I've read up on that, and I think tonight, in terms of seeding, doesn't actually matter for the Iowa men. I think they actually have to win at Nebraska to guarantee them.
Nebraska, they have to beat Nebraska, but if they were able to get this win tonight, it's almost just more of a confidence aspect of things. Right. Man, you knock off the number. What is Michigan's out at the 8 in the country?
Number 8.
8, yeah. Like, you knock off the number 8 team in the country, not only are you setting your seniors off right, but it builds that confidence going into that Nebraska game where you do have to win that to be able to get into the Big Ten tournament. And so, it's just more of – because I would tell you this: if they win tonight, I almost essentially, in my mind, am going, okay, they're going to get into the Big Ten tournament because you knock off the number 18 team, the eight team in the country, and you go up against a Nebraska team that just fell the other night to Ohio State,
Right.
in double overtime. I liked Iowa's chances that way, and I also more like I've been able to talk to Peyton Sanford and get to know him a little bit, and I would love for him to and all those seniors on this team, but definitely Peyton, just because I've gotten to know him. I would love for him to be able to continue that career, get in the Big Ten tournament, and just see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what we're rooting for here on Hawks Eye View. So we have more to talk about with the men's team, and it doesn't just end abruptly. I also think it's so silly that we aren't at 16 teams for the Big Ten tournament. Why did we cap it at 15? Or, I don't know. I don't really understand the powers that be making those decisions. So, all right. Well, we'll look forward to a good weekend. Sean, if you got to drop, respect you, but we'll go to some of our sponsors and come back.
All right, man. I gotta keep going, but
anything to plug? Anything to plug before you go?
If you listen to me in the morning, I know it's not a Drake podcast. I do have Bennett Sturts joining the show at 7:25 tomorrow. He's the Larry Bird MVC Most Valuable Player of the Year. He will join at 7:25. I had Peyton Sanford earlier today, so if you missed that, go ahead and check it out on the iHeartRadio app. He was awesome. Really good stuff from him. So yeah, that's about it. Everyone have a good night and good weekend.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for coming on. Yep. See you later.
See you, man.
All right. So everybody tune in tomorrow morning to KXNO. Listen to Bennett Sturts and Sean Roberts. Going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors, and then I'll be back.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. Whether you're buying, selling, or refinancing your home, or if it's simply time to renovate the one you're already living in, you need an experienced mortgage professional to help you analyze your financing options and to make sure the closing goes smoothly. And that's exactly what you get when you call Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage. Kyle's experience and expertise, coupled with Wintrust's rates and programs, ensures you'll get the mortgage that's right for you. You may even qualify for down payment assistance. Before you reach out to a realtor, call Kyle and get pre-qualified, empowering you to start shopping for the home of your dreams. Call Kyle at 515-473-0546. Kyle Lehman Wintrust Mortgage, 515-473-0546. In 2023, a crack Green Beret named Dan Douglas retired his military command and promptly escaped to a full-time career in real estate. Today, this man is wanted by home buyers and sellers who want to survive the process without spending a fortune. If you have a home to sell or want to buy one, maybe you can hire Dan Douglas at Green Beret Realty. You can find him at greenberetrealty.com. greenberetrealty.com.
Thank you to all those sponsors, and thank you to Sean Roberts for coming on this podcast on short notice. As you can see, Sean's one of the good guys in this business, so always happy to have him on. We talked a little bit about the Iowa-Michigan State women's game that's going on tonight. That was a very competitive game earlier this season, and that was all the way back in December 68-66 loss. As I mentioned, it was Iowa's second loss of the season. And that was kind of when we started to see the turnover issues that Iowa was having. They were really having trouble breaking Michigan State's press that they put on them in that game. I would expect Michigan State to put a press on to try and cause those turnover problems yet again. But I feel like this Iowa women's team is just better prepared for that sort of a thing now. Jan Jensen has really changed some things for this team offensively. She's gone a little bit heavier with the more veteran lineup. At that time, when we played back in December, we were still starting O'Grady. And now we're starting McCabe and putting Stolke at the 5. I think it's a more natural fit there. Fulter is really flourishing at that 4 spot. She has had a wonderful run here in the last few games. Just pulling up some quick stats on Sydney Fulter here. Because not only has Lucy Olson been lights out for about 2 months now, Sydney Fulter has been lights out for the last month. And it's good seeing her really kind of meet all of her potential and having everything kind of click for her late in her career. And she kind of deserves a great send-off. So, yeah, she's been in double-digit scoring in, I believe it is actually 8 of the last 9 games. She had the 24-11 at Michigan, but just so consistent scoring-wise, and then also has just been a monster on the board since that game against Nebraska. That's when the double-digit scoring really picked up. She's had 13 rebounds, 15 rebounds. Then a game against Minnesota with 14, Rutgers with 14 rebounds, at Ohio State with 15 rebounds, 11 rebounds against UCLA and Michigan. So against some of these bigger teams, she's just kind of gotten to work on the boards, and she's just been absolutely crucial to kind of this turnaround for the season for the Iowa women and that 7-game winning streak that they went on before the overtime loss to Ohio State and then the 2-point loss to UCLA. And then finishing up the season with wins at Michigan and home against Wisconsin, and then last night again against Wisconsin. I think they've done enough to solidify themselves as at least an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. I really think they need a win tonight against the top 25 team in Michigan State on a neutral court, and they're fully capable of it in order to kind of push themselves into the real conversation to be on the 7 line or maybe even above that. And if they can keep this run going, they can really put themselves in a position to be even higher than that. Obviously, Ohio State's a top 10 team. They would play Ohio State on Friday night if they were able to get past the Michigan State Spartans. And there's some word out there that Cody McMahon might be serving some kind of a suspension for her actions during a game against Maryland at the end of the regular season. I'm not sure what will come of that, or if that's true, if that's just a rumor that's floating out there. But Cody McMahon has been a killer to this Iowa team over the past couple of years. And facing an Ohio State team without Cody McMahon, I think that would be advantage Iowa there. Like Sean said, Lucy Olson has been balling out. She's been the player that we all really kind of expected for the past 2 months. She wasn't that way the whole season. Like we said, took a little bit of time to adjust, but she has been fully in control, picking her spots wonderfully. Hannah Stolke had a great game the last time these two teams played, Iowa and Michigan State. And I look for her to have another good game in the post. She's going to be big in getting Julia Ayroll into maybe some foul trouble, pushing the pace, trying to run and beat Ayroll down the floor. I think that is something that Hannah excels at. They went 6 for 19 from 3, so they didn't really hurt us there. They had 14 turnovers themselves. So it's not like Michigan State is picture perfect in that regard. But really, I think that is what this game comes down to is, can Iowa take care of the ball? And will Lucy Olson play like the player she's been for the past 2 months? Will we see a better version of Sydney Fulter than what we've seen previously in December and in early January? I think if that's true, the Iowa women are going to go ahead and win this game here tonight, and that's exactly what I'm going to predict. So I'll give the Iowa women 77, the Michigan State women 70. I think this is going to be a close game. I think Iowa pulls it away late. They just take care of business. They make their free throws in a late game situation, which would be nice to see, a nice change of pace from what has been the norm for most of the season as well. So again, I think I'm predicting a win for the Iowa women on tonight's game. And then I will go ahead and say that we are going to upset Ohio State as well. I feel like we matched up well with them. They're not a great three-point shooting team. And then we'll get a rematch with UCLA and then potentially USC if we make it that far. I'm not going to predict it. I think UCLA is a bad matchup for Iowa, specifically with Betts. Maybe their performance against UCLA is a little bit more repeatable than the performance that we had against USC. I don't think we shot very well against UCLA, and we were still in that game. I expect a competitive game, but I think the run's going to kind of end there. I think Iowa's going to get wins against Michigan State and Ohio State and really put themselves at least solidly on a 7 seed line, perhaps even higher than that, and just will depend on how the committee sees that and sees these neutral court wins in the Big Ten tournament as well. But I'll be excited to see the seeding and maybe even talk about the results of some games. When we come back next week, we will talk through all of that. I want to touch quickly on men's basketball. Tough matchup tonight for the Iowa men. They're playing a Michigan State team that's the number 8 team in the nation. They have an inside track towards winning the Big Ten regular season title. They can clinch it with a win in Iowa City tonight. We had an awesome Peyton Sandfort performance 2 years ago against Michigan State. We're going to need something just as awesome, if not better, tonight to even be in the game. I hope he can dip into that magic a little bit here on senior night. And like Sean said, have a good send-off. So I just want to see Peyton Sandfort play his best game. I just want to see Drew Thelwell, if he gets a chance to play, have his best game. I just want all these guys who have committed to the Iowa program and really given it their all to just go out there and lay it all on the line. Play like you have nothing to lose, because you don't. But that being said, you're playing a team that's a second weekend type of team here, a Sweet 16 and beyond type of team with Izzo. And nobody really expected this from them before the season started. They thought maybe they'd be in the conversation to be in the top 4 or 5 in the Big Ten, but nobody saw Michigan State winning the Big Ten regular season outright, which they have a chance to do. Jace Richardson has really come on as a freshman for them. He's been huge. Trey Holloman has been playing better as of late. I really like what they have down low with Kohler, Cooper, Zapara. It's just so tough for Iowa in these games with multiple bigs without Owen Freeman. They're going to have their hands full with that Cooper, Kohler, Zapara trio. And then you can bring Cohen Carr off the bench as well. And this Michigan State team loves to run up and down. This Iowa team loves to run up and down. So one thing that I do know is there's going to be some points in this game tonight. I think the over-under was set at 154.5 points. I don't know why it was so low. I think this game's ending in the 80s, maybe even the 90s, because both these teams really want to push the pace, get the ball right out of the basket, go up and down. I just don't think that Iowa has the depth and the depth at key positions, specifically inside, to kind of hang with the Spartans. in this one. So I am going to predict a Michigan State win. And I think it'll be something like 92-85. Then Iowa hangs tough. They play some of their best offensive basketball, but defensively, I just don't see how Iowa has answers for Michigan State. If they do, they're going to need probably the game of their lives from Evan Bronze and Riley Mulvey. Maybe even see a little bit of Tajo tonight, and Traore is going to have to be big on the boards as well. Dembele, I don't know. I just don't see it. Those guys have tough matchup against that trio that I mentioned. And then also just the guard play for Michigan State. They have Jeremy Fears as well, Jay Nakins, who I didn't even mention. They're just so deep at so many different spots. Izzo has one of his better teams, a team that I think is fully capable of playing in the Final Four in Dallas, I believe, and maybe even beyond. I'm not going to pick it, but they have the potential. The one weakness maybe that they do have is three-point shooting. That's not a calling card of theirs, but we've seen them get hot in some games from three, and if they do, that essentially locks down the game for them. So, again, a tall task for this Iowa team against Michigan State at home. If it comes to fruition that they don't beat Michigan State, then it's an all-out battle between Iowa and Nebraska for who's in the Big Ten tournament, who's out of the Big Ten tournament, and that game is at Nebraska. If you'll remember, Iowa was down big at home in Iowa City against Nebraska. Peyton Sanford dropped 30 in the second half. Iowa won that game. Barely, but they pulled it out. They won that game. They're going to Nebraska's arena. Why am I blanking on the name of their arena right now? Tough place to play. They did lose on the road at Ohio State in a double overtime classic, 116-114 game there. But man, I don't like Iowa's odds going into that one. Pinnacle Bank Arena has kind of been a house of horrors for better Iowa teams than this one. I think this ends with Iowa going 0-2 this season. I think Nebraska beats Iowa, and unfortunately, we missed the Big Ten tournament. It's not what I want to see happen. I'll be cheering for the opposite, as I always am, cheering for an Iowa win. It's just sadly what I think will happen. And this likely signals the end of the Fran McCaffrey era. I think we need to, as fans, pay respect to Fran for what he's done. We've talked about it multiple times on this show, but I think there's a lot of respect that Fran deserves and a lot of credit that he deserves for what he's done and how he's done it. I remember the Look Lighter days. I don't remember them fondly. I don't ever want to go back there. I think Fran's put Iowa in a position, even now with this season being the way that it is and last season being what it was, missing the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years, now still in a position where we're not anywhere close to the Look Lighter days of Iowa basketball. I really am excited about the opportunities, the possibilities for the next head coach of Iowa. We'll have to see what comes. I think there's two clear options. If you, for some reason, strike out on both of those options, the other options I think are Chris Jans, probably a great option. And then from there, it gets a little bit murkier. I'm just guessing at names. I think Chris Jans would be a nice fallback option if we were able to lure him from Mississippi State. He's a great coach, and Mississippi State is a good team this year. So I would be okay with that. I don't think it would be the excitement of DeVries or McCollum for the fan base. There's other names out there. The St. Thomas coach, Ryan Odom, maybe. I don't know. He's going to be a hot name. I think he's going to end up somewhere bigger on the East Coast than Iowa. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. But would like to see this men's team, obviously in this program, turn around and have more success in the future. The last thing that I'll leave you guys with is we hired Wake Forest offensive coordinator, their former offensive coordinator under Dave Clawson, Warren Ruggiero, Coach Ruggs. That's how I'll refer to him on the show. He's coming in as an analyst. John Budmeyer was an analyst. He's now our wide receivers coach. I really, really like this Warren Ruggiero hire. He was very responsible for developing Sam Hartman, who became a great quarterback at Wake Forest and then a quarterback for Notre Dame. And he was known for something called the slow mesh at Wake Forest. And I watched some film where they burned Clemson defense repeatedly with the slow mesh concept. What that is, that's a run pass option. Center hikes the ball to the quarterback, then kind of a delayed fake handoff, then throw downfield, kind of the mesh point there. I don't know if I was going to run the slow mesh necessarily, but I do think that Coach Ruggs is going to have some ideas on specifically the quarterback position and how to play it. And I just like putting another good, proven quarterback mind in the building. We've talked about that with Tim Lester and his track record with quarterbacks. We are going to see the development of Tim Lester's quarterback room this upcoming season, bringing in Gronowski, bringing in Hank Brown. He already brought in Sullivan. You saw kind of the development of Sullivan in that bowl game. Even though we lost, you saw the development there. There were some clear strides, some different things with the offense implemented in even a month's time. So another offseason of implementing Tim Lester's style of offense. And again, I think it's another signal that Tim Lester's hands are all over the offense. It's completely Tim Lester's show. Kirk is letting him run it the way that he wants to run it. And I love that. Coach Ruggs in, Coach Betts out. Tough loss for the Iowa coaching staff there. He had deep ties in Florida. Was great with all the running back recruits and really kept that running back room together when I think in a lot of situations, maybe a guy like Jazz Patterson transfers out before this past season. I really credit Liddell Betts with what he did to kind of remake the running back room at Iowa, because when he inherited it, it just wasn't in a place where we needed it to be to have success in the run game. And also he really got a recruiting pipeline. Him and Abdul Hodge really got a recruiting pipeline going in Florida, and I credit him a lot. I'm not surprised that an NFL team was willing to take a chance on him, and I think he's going to have a great career as a coach in the NFL if that's what he wants to do, or if he wants to become an offensive coordinator and come back. That would be awesome. I think he's going to set himself up for a lot of success, and wish him all the best in that. I'll be curious to see who Iowa hires as his replacement. I think we're going to get some news on that maybe by next week when we come on the air. We'll be able to talk about and break down the new Iowa running back coach, what that all means. And we'll be gearing up for March Madness for both the men's and the women's tournament. Well, maybe not for the Iowa men, but we'll be gearing up for March Madness regardless. I love this time of year. This is my favorite time of year. It's a great time to be a basketball fan. So, yeah, with that being said, I want to talk maybe a little bit of wrestling and baseball. I think wrestling had a huge victory over Oklahoma State a little bit ago. I know that Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, March Madness is coming up. as well. I expect Iowa to be very competitive at several levels in that, and we'll probably catch up with Drew and talk about that in next week's episode. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to go find us on YouTube, Three Beards Media, like, comment, subscribe, everything, do the whole bit. But as always, thank you for listening. Have a great night, and go Hawks.
Talking football, talking hoops, every sport in between. I don't WA, yeah, you know what I mean. From a hawk's eye view, see the whole state rise. With a heart so strong and fire in our eyes. On the field, on the court, in the stands we shine. The best in the game, yeah, the state is mine.